Hello everyone, this is Peter from Chennai. Welcome to a session on solo exploration, risks and learnings as part of the IMF webinar series during this lockdown. I want to thank by sharing my appreciation to one of my one and only inspirations, Satya from Bangalore, who unfortunately went missing in the previous summer of 2018, somewhere in Ladakh. Satya was no doubt one of the pioneer solo explorers of the Indian Himalayas, at least in the modern times. He also maintained a wonderful inspirational blog, satyatravels.blogspot.com, where he carefully and scientifically documented all his exploratory routes, which has no doubt inspired many hikers like me. Short intro on myself. I was born in the land of chocolates, Belgium. I've been settled in India since 98, so 22 years. India is my home now. I explored the South Indian jungles more than a decade. I'm the founder of the Chennai Trekking Club, like a 40,000 member non-profit volunteer-based organization, which has, I think, changed the outdoor and sports landscape in South. Passionate ultra runner, it will not be uncommon to find me on some 1,000-kilometer run from Shimla to Jammu in the Himalayas in previous years. I'm an alpine style explorer, so I prefer to go on my own, no guides, just study the terrain, find my own way. And as you can see in the slides, since childhood, I've been quite a minimalist, carrying minimal gears, which is pretty unlikely in the Himalayas. Last summer, I did one of my bigger journeys, ultra journey so far. Explored actually 120 new high passes in the Himalayas over 4 months, which basically meant I was fast hiking at one pass per day. Over Uttarakhand, Himachal, Ladakh, mostly solo again, a couple of times joined with a few friends in between. Covered some 3,500 kilometers, explored like experienced amazing hospitality in more than 340 hamlets, lesser known settlements in the Himalayas, and finally kind of covered the equivalent of 19 times the height of Mount Everest during this mission. I'm going to share some of my learnings and experiences over these last 2 years, especially traversing a total of 6 months in the high passes. The risks will be related to various aspects. One obviously is the higher altitudes, where you have much less oxygen, much more exposure. Getting lost, of course, is one key challenge, as you typically, if you get off trail, you get stuck in very steep, very dangerous terrain. Weather is like pretty extreme at higher altitudes compared to the plains. Weather also changes very fast. The landscape is very volatile, very fragile. Again, with recent climate changes, you have frequent landslide cloudbursts, which can cause inherent dangers. Stream crossings can be life-threatening, especially in peak summer during peak glacial melt. Wildlife, although much less frequent according to me compared to the lower altitude Western Ghats, still you see quite a few signs of wildlife on your way. And then of course you have to respect the seasons. The passes will be off limits during certain seasons related to monsoons or snowfall or whatever. In this presentation, I'm gonna get you through some real-world cases I encountered, some kind of challenging situations, how we got into those, and how we can how we got out, and how we can probably learn from this to avoid similar situations on your own exploratory missions. Here, beautiful campsites below the Milky Way. At 4,700 meters at the base of the Phirtse, 5,500 meter high pass connecting Zanskar with Lahore, Sarchu. So here I was basically hiking up out of the Kuryak Valley with a co-tracker of mine who started showing signs of high altitude sickness at an altitude of 4,700 meters. Basically, he got headache, fast heartbeat, like 150 beats per second, and low oxygen level. So using an oximeter, which we carried, we saw his oxygen level dropping towards 60, which means that things were not looking good. So instead of proceeding with our planned pass crossing at another 700 meter up, we decided to drop down to a lower altitude, set up the camp there to give one extra night of acclimatization and keep a close watch to his vitals. General rules of acclimatization means that once you go above 3,000 meters, that you should take it easy. You should not increase more than 500 meters per day. Frequent hydration also will help a lot in fighting acclimatization. Another interesting case was the one of the lost trail near in the Dolador, near one of the lesser known passes, the Waru pass, connecting the Kangra plains with the Chamba Valley. So here basically I was following a kind of not so frequently used trail and got lost midway. So this basically made me end up in scrambling through dense vegetation and jungles, completely stuck, not able to make much progress. And then in between, I was also getting stuck on these deeply cut side gullies. Here like a 50 meter vertical drop on top of a frozen gully, which prevented me from proceeding further. So again, here it's all about, experience, I would say, about trail finding skills to stay on trail. You can also be helpful to leave digital breadcrumbs, mark your GPS location regularly, so in case you get completely stuck on these near vertical drops, that you can always safely backtrack. Looking at having an offline topographic map with you is very useful to identify the steep sections in the mountain and try to circumvent those using lesser steep sections. So eventually here I was able to find one of these side gullies, one of these small openings, not visible obviously on the topographic map, where I could kind of slowly, safely descend and get proper foothold again. Very interesting case was related to the weather, both a whiteout and flash floods near the Phirtse. Chobia Pass is one of the lesser frequented passes, as it's a little bit more dangerous across the Phirtse, connecting Lahore with Chamba Valley. Mostly used by shepherds, not very clear trail, I guess, as it's less frequently used. Problem here was basically that I was crossing the pass late afternoon, which is a bit of a mistake. Normally, we should cross passes during a stable weather window, early mornings. So I crossed the pass around 4 o'clock. Was able to cross it, get down again, but once I dropped till about 4,100 meters, I got stuck at 5:30 p.m. in the evening in a dense fog, which made me completely lose the trail. Was not able to find the trail that shepherds had been using to descend further. And with just 10 meters of visibility, I got stuck on all sides in near vertical drops, so I had no other option than to basically sleep here on a slanting slope. No water, the weather turned bad into rains, and aggravating the situation, I was basically also lost my tent the previous day actually, so I could only manage by layering up in a fleece, a rain jacket, sleeping on a thermocol mat below a couple of tarpaulin sheets I had bought in Udaipur before crossing this pass. Basically pretty uncomfortable sleepless nights, which was a good learning. Further down then again, so next morning, luckily the weather cleared up. I was able to get down 500 meters and I was sipping a hot cup of chai with the shepherds, which were just camping 1 hour below me. Still, the adventure was not over. Thanks to flash floods the previous days, the makeshift bridges used to cross the valley, the wild stream, at various places on the way down the valley have been completely washed away. So we're basically stuck at one side of the valley now with no trail, near kind of again pretty much steep valley slopes. Luckily here I was able to get guidance of some of the shepherds. The guy in the front you see there is a 70-year-old gentleman. I would more call him like a mountain guide, mountain goat, who was hoping just with absolutely no specialized gear, 60 rupee rubber shoes and a wooden stock, walking faster than myself as an experienced ultra runner could keep up with him. So finally we reached safely again into City Cow, the first village down the Chobia valley, where I was joining his entire family again in wonderful hospitality on a sumptuous meal after enjoying some locally made drinks. One of the most challenging obstacles, I would say, is water, both in South India as well as in the high passes of the Himalayas. Water always looks peaceful and pleasant, but is a silent killer. Stream crossings can be very dangerous, especially near peak summer in July, August, when there is peak glacial meltwater, and peaceful streams are transformed into raging water currents. This summer, on the way to Dublin, after crossing the Kudung Line Zanskar, I had to cross the Orna River. I didn't take any photos, so I'm just showing another representative image here near Zanskar. But I had to cross an Orna River in full flow. You basically have to walk across an uneven riverbed. As a human being, you only have 2 points of contact. Every step you make onto this uneven riverbeds being pushed away by the ferocious stream currents, you only have 1 point of contact left, and it takes very little actually to lose your balance and get washed away in the stream. So the key here is actually to avoid these kind of overwhelming stream currents later in the summer when the snow melt is less. Early morning there also is much less snow melt water in the streams due to the night freezing weather. Increasing your number of points of contact, just like the animals, having 1 or 2 sticks facing the stream while crossing the waters will definitely help. Very frequent encountered challenge in recent years during partly again due to climate change is frequent massive landslides, where not just the trail but an entire section of the mountain gets washed away. Here near the Makori pass on the way from the Bharat Valley across the Phirtse again towards Barabangal, one of the very lesser known passes, only known by villagers collecting medicinal plants in the high near the pass, in the alpine meadows near the pass, and the shepherds. So here the some of the ancient generations old routes were destroyed by massive landslides. Got completely stuck on very steep slopes, loose rocks and loose soil, raging stream below. Any one step here would make you end up hundreds of meters below into the stream. So hiking poles here obviously are useful, but of course if the trail is completely washed away, it can be impossible. And luckily this year, due to unprecedented snowfall the previous winters, there will still, even in the month late of August, end of the summer, there will still big snow bridges covering the side stream here, leading to the Kaliheni Nala, eventually flowing to the Ravi River Valley. So using those big frozen snow bridges, we were able to kind of fairly frequently cross the wild stream underneath and able to kind of proceed downstream following the least gradient slope on the stream. A few words on wildlife, even though based on my experience in the South Indian jungles, where I've met a lot of wildlife, especially snakes and even bears. A lot of encounters, many of them normally not confrontational or dangerous. In the high passes, I've seen much less signs looking at footsteps and droppings of animals. I guess due to the more extreme climate and barren landscape, the density of the wildlife is less. Nevertheless, you'll definitely encounter in the lower altitude bears and leopards, and in the higher altitudes the snow leopards. You should always remember as you go to the wild that you are in the intruder into the ecosystem of these animals. A couple of hints there. Rule number 1, I would say, is to avoid surprise at any measures. So you should always make sure that animals are aware of your presence, either by having a clear view or making some noise in case you are in a forest, or if you feel the presence, possible presence of wildlife, it's good to make your presence felt by making noises so that you avoid surprise encounters where the animal will feel threatened. During the night, day I'm less concerned. During the night, I would say it's always a good idea to stay in a shelter. If there is a Gujar, a mountain tribe, if there is a settlement, if there are shepherds, it's definitely a good idea to stay with them so you're safer. If you're alone camping solo in the middle of nowhere, a shelter again, campfire can be useful to be safer against wildlife. Should always be careful, of course, with food. After cooking, animals might get attracted to the scent of food. So keeping your food well packed and away from your sleeping position will definitely help. Final session on managing the seasons. So as you plan your route, especially in my case, when I went the entire summer, almost over 4 months, over multiple seasons in the high passes, should be aware of several aspects that are obviously related to the seasons. So say, for example, as you go above 4,000 meter altitudes in early summer, you should be aware that in the month of May, June, most of these passes above 4,000 meters will be still covered with a layer of snow, making it more challenging to cross some of these, easier to lose the trails. During July, August, you'll have the northwest monsoon in the lower Himalayas, making them more prone to frequent landslides and raging stream currents. When we go then to peak summer in July, August, the higher ranges of the Himalayas, Zanskar, Lahore, and Ladakh, you will come across raging stream currents due to increased meltwater, glacial meltwater. And then again, when you hike the Pir Panjal or the Dollar Door, where you'll mostly be on shepherd routes, be aware that you might want to go through these passes after the shepherds have opened the pass. If you don't want to be the one opening the passes, which will be definitely more challenging. Couple more notes on solo exploration. So if anything happens, of course, as a solo explorer, you will be in trouble because there will be nobody to know that any incident has happened to you, nor will there be anybody to get help. So there's a much higher risk obviously involved. A couple of things here can help. Obviously experience is a key factor. More experienced hiker who has crossed more paths, more diverse terrain, more regions, will be more different weather conditions. Will have much better experience to make a better assessment in certain challenging conditions. It's always very important to research the terrain, possible challenges across the way, like stream crossings, crevice glaciers, difficult passes, technical passes. So spend enough time in planning your route, studying maps, looking at satellite maps, terrain maps. Weather forecast is essential. You don't want to get stuck in a snowstorm or a cloudburst at higher altitudes. Always respect the seasons, like we mentioned in the previous slide. Share your schedule with your home base, so in case you don't pop up on your next check-in point, that at least the people at home will know that something is wrong if you don't report back to your home base and can possibly send in a rescue while it's still in time instead of once it becomes too late, and chances are minimal that you will survive in this kind of barren landscape. One thing that I carried last summer was a spot tracker here. This is a useful device as it periodically beams your location to the satellites. So basically, again, the home base can follow your progress. In case your dot on the map stops moving, then people know you might be possibly in trouble. We also have an SOS button here to inform people that you're in a life-threatening situation and that rescue is needed. If you're hungry for more, don't hesitate to look at my blog, ultrajourneys.org, which has a lot of useful maps on more than 160 passes in the Indian Western Himalayas. A lot of blogs, videos, educational videos, and training material. If you still need more inspiration, check out my Instagram account. And also at this lockdown period, I am currently running a live webinar series myself on various important aspects on fast hiking the high passes of the Himalayas. So be welcome to join any of these daily sessions, as well as check the past sessions on my blog, ultrajourneys.org. Thanks for joining this session. Hope it was useful, and hope to see you guys soon in one of the high passes once the lockdown is over. Ciao, ciao from Chennai.